You're listening to episode 191 of the Master Your Mind, Business, and Life podcast. I love when I get to explore new topics that I have quite literally never heard about before because my naturally curious mind gets to do its thing. And today we are talking about reality transurfing with Renee Garcia. Renee Garcia is a lifelong entrepreneur, certified reality transurfing instructor, and alternative space adventurer, endorsed by, and I hope I'm saying his name correctly, Vadim Zeland, former Russian quantum physicist and the author and creator of Reality Transurfing. Renee has employed reality transurfing to discover fulfillment, true purpose in her life, and to connect with the highest version of herself. With a rapidly growing following of the fellow transurfers at her side, Renee has developed the only English language reality transurfing instructional program, and this training serves as the backbone for the International Transurfing Institute, which she founded in 2016. But before I introduce you to Renee, I wanted to share a reminder about the favorite section on mindbizlife.com. The favorite section is packed with my favorite products and services. Some of these are found on Amazon, other are small businesses that are making big impact. You'll find things such as books, crystals, tarot, affirmation cards, and other healing modalities, and even a few things that I use on the regular to make some cash back on my everyday purchases. I update this favorite section every time I'm sold on a new favorite. I also highlight my favorites on my Feel Your Life Friday episodes, so continue to tune in to those. While you're listening to today's episode, screenshot that you're listening, post it on Instagram stories, tag me in it at MindBizLife, and I'll be sure to reshare with the community. Speaking of social media, let's connect. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at MindBizLife, and on Pinterest at MindBizLife Podcast. Okay, are you ready to meet Renee? You know what to do. Tune in, turn it up, let's go.
You're listening to Master Your Mind, Business and Life. Conversations with everyday world shifters, truth seekers, and rule breakers. Here's your host, Lauren Smith.
Hi, Renee. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Lauren. I'm super happy to be here.
Now, Renee, I know you're a lifelong entrepreneur, but I am so incredibly curious about your journey and what ultimately led you to reality transurfing. But first, I have to know, what is reality transurfing?
I know that's like the question.
The golden question.
Yes, it's such a curious name. And I have to say, when I first found transurfing, I was just scrolling some, random Instagram account, and somebody in a comment said, "Have you ever heard of reality transurfing?" And my curiosity just totally lit up. I was like, "What is that?"
Yeah.
And yeah, so then I fell into the rabbit hole big time. This was about almost 6 years now. And it's taken me a long time to be able to answer this question with words that a lot of people can understand, because it's kind of, what reality transurfing is can be a little bit elusive. It's a huge book. It's 800 pages long, the book itself,
Wow.
which is now a compilation of 5 different volumes that the author wrote from around 2000 to 2008. So it's a big book, and it has been challenging over the years to try to sum it up to people, depending on who's asking, right? Because there's so many different angles to transurfing. There's the entrepreneur angle, there's the self-development angle, there's the quantum science kind of angle, there's the mystical knowledge, Russian mysticism. So there's a lot of different ways that you could look at the knowledge, but the easiest way to say it is that it is a self-development system that is based in quantum mechanics. And what it allows its users to do is really break down what external reality, the reality that you're experiencing right now, break that down into in a way where you can really see exactly what's going on with it. There's no more ambiguity or confusion. It sort of allows you to peer behind the curtain, so to speak. That's what I like to say.
Fascinating.
It is really fascinating. Then it does the same thing with your internal world. So your thoughts, your ideas, your beliefs, your attitudes, all the parts that make up who you are, and also all the parts that have been heavily influenced by that external environment. Because this is kind of where the problem is for a lot of people, is people aren't living their truest nature. They're allowing that external world to influence them too much. They're allowing big entities and what we refer to as pendulums to really have a lot of say and a lot of influence on somebody's life. This could be the professional world. This could be the blueprint that most human beings follow, right? Go to college, get married, have kids, buy the house, do the thing. So when you dive into this knowledge, you start to make sense of your world, you start to make sense of yourself, and you start to make sense of your relationship to that world, how you actually connect to your world. And everything just starts to become very, very clear. And a lot of people start having some major epiphanies about themselves and their lives and the lives that they've led and where they've gone wrong, what they've done right, the direction that they've gone in, how it resulted and consequently what happened after certain choices were made. Reality transurfing is really putting us back in touch with our ability, our power to choose, to really, really choose what it is we want, what sort of experience we want in life, and then give us all the tools to materialize that choice and make that new choice a version of reality.
Okay, this is so dang cool to me because I'm like, I have all kinds of questions swirling in my head. I'm like, which one do I choose from first? But I think before I ask all my questions, I'm curious to know. So when you start to go down this rabbit hole, clearly it was resonating with you hardcore because 6 years later, you are now teaching this and you're facilitating it. So what was it that really resonated with you? What did you find when you started to dive into transurfing?
So when I found transurfing, I was at a very, very interesting point in my life. I had lived I grew up very poverty level in the Central Valley of California. I grew up in a family where there were a lot of generations that had done things exactly the same, started having kids at 17, nobody ever went to college. Everybody just sort of lived this lower middle class / poverty level sort of life. And I thought to myself at a certain point, I've got to do something. I've got to get out. I know there's something else out there. And I managed to get myself to Los Angeles. And for the first 5 years, it was really, really hard because I wasn't college educated. I hadn't even graduated from high school. So trying to make my way was like, it was painful, but I did manage to connect with some opportunities that ended up providing me a lot of success in my life. I started my own business and I became extremely successful in that. I became an expert in my field, and I saw a lot of progress and a lot of reward for my energy in. But the problem was I was solely focused on survival, and that whole other part of me, the spiritual development, the self-development, tuning into what it was that I actually wanted as a person. All that was on the back burner. And I was just hustle, grind. I got to come up. I don't ever want to go back to the trailer park. I want to be successful. And I broke myself in this mode. So when that fracture occurred and I realized, oh my God, you can't keep going on like this. What are you doing? And I was incredibly lonely. I worked all the time and I was miserable, absolutely miserable. I just left it all. I had this kind of very freak medical thing happen, and I took it as an opportunity to just shut down my life in Los Angeles. And I went up to Oregon where I had some family and decided that I was just going to take a year off. I was going to chill. I was going to rethink everything. And that's when I found transurfing. When I found, it was like a miracle. When I found transurfing, I found the original audiobook actually was the first, I saw the words on Instagram. I found the audiobook and I was taking these really epic long walks in the evening. I'd walk for 10 or 15 miles and I was listening to this. And it was like somebody once told me that I had forgotten in another life or something. It was very, very strange. I can't even begin to say what the words were, how deep they were going and what they were revealing to me about exactly why I had just broken, why everything had happened the way that it did. It just laid it all out. And I thought, how can this possibly be that here I am in search of answers and this knowledge sort of just falls into my lap and explains everything with such lucidity and such, it was just mind blowing. So what happened was I started to really take the words and apply them, like really apply. Because sometimes how you read a book and you're like, oh, that's great. And then you put the book up on the shelf.
And that's that.
And that's that.
Yeah.
I was like, no, you know what? I have a feeling that this is going to be my new model. And that's why I call what I've created my program on Teachable, I call it Reality 2.0, because that's sort of what it was for me. It was like, okay, my programming system, the program that I was running on is faulty. I know that now. I can see that with full clarity. And this is a new program. I'm not going to just put this back up on the shelf. I'm actually going to start living it. And when I started living it, things just got crazy. It was, and almost immediately, it was the weirdest thing. It was like, okay, so what do you want, Renee? Then I would state to myself what I wanted. And I would follow the steps in the book. And all of a sudden, I would be in these fantastic situations where things were just unfolding and life was changing. And I was connecting with meaning and I was feeling happy for the first time in my life. And then I decided I have to be the one. There's nobody in the US, there's nobody in the English speaking world connecting people to this knowledge, online and through social media platforms. I'm going to take it to the next level and I'm going to bring it. And I've been using these concepts to help me do that, just that. And that's been literally, and I say this without exaggeration, literally every single day since.
Oh my goodness. You're such a badass for even recognizing that it was a need. And you're like, I'm going to take this on. This needs to be shared. And I'm going to be the vessel to share this information. Like, kudos to you, because a lot of people would just be like, oh, we need to find someone else and wouldn't, take on the undertaking. And you did. And you're out here and you're sharing it for people like me and our audience to just start learning about it. But you touched on that when you started to apply the book and the steps. That was actually my next question. So transurfing, there are steps that you have to take, like what a step 1, 2, 3, and do they have to go in order, or what's the process of transurfing?
So in my interpretation of instructing this book, and I'm regarded as I'm the one. I'm actually Vadim Zeland, the author. I'm his partner now, his official partner in reality transurfing. So my program is sort of the program where I give what I like to call practical application. So the book's great. It's got tons of magical reading and amazing. Vadim Zeland is an amazing writer. But what I bring to the table is the practical real life application. And I have 600 videos on YouTube right now, where each one I'm talking about how to actually apply this in some area of your life. And people love it because it's the perfect fusion with the book and then with my way of teaching it. So I like to say there's 11 core concepts. If you were to cut the concepts in half, the first part of the concepts are about you. So envision that you're in a hole, right? Envision that you're in a hole and your life is not what you want it to be. Okay. Your life's not what you want it to be. Let's say you're in some dysfunctional relationships. Let's say your self-esteem's in the dumps. Let's say you're not happy with your occupation or you don't have one. Let's say you don't like where you live. A combination of any of those, all of them, add some, use your imagination. So you're in a hole and you don't know how to get out. The first part of the knowledge is going to help you get up out of that hole, to actually get yourself on to level ground. Then the second part of the knowledge is going to help you build a foundation and a structure where that hole used to exist. And that second part is the actual building of your own reality. Really what it is it's and I know this probably sounds a little bit woo-woo to some people, and it is a little bit, but it does work, and millions of people around the world are experiencing it right now. It's shifting into alternate realities. It's shifting in to different variations of reality that you have access to based on certain fulfilled requirements that transurfing teaches you. But again, getting back to the first half of the knowledge helps you to see what is exactly going on with you and your world and your relationship to your world, and to understand how to separate yourself from stuff that's no longer serving you, how to get your energy levels back up, how to make sense of everything that's happening externally. And then once you have that down, then you apply the second part of the knowledge to connect you with what your ultimate purpose is, and keep your energy levels up to where you can continuously sort of give to your purpose, seeing a new reality form, before your eyes, because that's really all it's about. It's about taking your energy back from things that are extracting your energy that do not suit you or your intentions, and then redirecting that energy into something that is going to help you create the reality of your choosing.
This is all so fascinating to me. So I'm curious to know if someone's listening right now and they're like, okay, but this sounds similar. I could do this through meditation or journaling. How is transurfing different than other types of self-development or even healing modalities?
Oh, wow. Gosh. Yeah, that's a good question. Reality transurfing has, it really stands apart from everything else because, first of all, in my opinion, and in the opinion of the author, and also a lot of people that are what we call reality transurfers, and I'm not talking down on meditation. I believe that there's definitely a time and a place for meditation, and it is good to get get yourself sort of tuned out and all that stuff. I'm not trying to talk bad about meditation, but what reality transurfing is it's your ability, it helps you to kick into your ability to take action. And it helps you to understand your own power and grow your own power. We call it meta power. This is the power that, if you see, a famous entrepreneur, maybe somebody like Gary Vee, he's got an extreme amount of meta power, right? He's very, very effective. He did not get there by meditating and journaling, right? He got there by following the steps, even though, I don't know, he might be a transurfer. I don't know that he is, but a lot of successful people, in my opinion, most successful people, all successful people, are still following the laws of transurfing. Transurfing is kind of like, it gives you sort of the laws of reality. And if you know and believe in these laws, it doesn't matter if you know and believe in them or you don't know of them. You're still following these laws, if that makes sense. Yeah. It's kind of the laws in which our reality functions, right? So someone like Gary Vee, he's doing exactly the stuff that he needs to do to create his own reality, and meditating and journaling and yoga and doing that kind of stuff. So a lot of people think that since these things are so widely broadcasted into our external environment, that that's the way for success. And definitely, I mean, I do yoga, I meditate, all that stuff, but me really, getting my power going and using my power, harvesting my power, utilizing my power, all that stuff, that comes from my transurfing practice.
I like the way that you broke that down to really strip it down to the power, because if you go back to the place and you're in the hole, that is really where you feel powerless. And it's sometimes really hard to see how your own personal choices got you to this point, and even how you can start to get out of that hole. Like, that powerless feeling can keep you down.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. And the cool thing is about reality transurfing is it shows you very, very quickly why you are powerless. Very quickly. And that's what happened to me when I found it. I'm listening to this audiobook, and it got to the chapter of pendulums, which is where you learn about how your power is extracted from you, starting from a very, very young age. And then going into adulthood, it gets worse and worse and worse. And when this is explained, and when this was explained to me, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't see it. And it's like, all of a sudden, I just woke up, I woke up and I saw exactly why I had been rendered powerless for so many years. And the best thing was, it was followed up by, this is how to never be powerless again.
Yes. It's like the step-by-step of like how to not go back. Cause I think sometimes that is what's missing. And I can even say, like, in my life, right? It's like you climb out of that hole and you're like, whoa, I made it. And then just to find yourself back in it a year later, 2 years later, 5 years later. And then it's like, duh, I'm back here again. And it may be a little bit of a different hole, right? Different location, different size, maybe clay instead of dirt, like it may be a different hole, but it's like, how did I get back here again? And it can feel defeating. And it can also just feel, you can get really down on yourself, because it's like, how did I allow this to happen?
Oh yeah. I think patterns, well-worn patterns, and, our tendency as humans to also put blame on ourselves. So like getting back to that hole and then getting out of it, and then you somehow find yourself back in it a year or two later, you know, a lot of people would just naturally think, oh, well, I guess this is just what I deserve. This is the life that I deserve. This is how it is for me, right?
Mm.
This is how it is for me. And I did that for so many years. Well, I guess I'm just kind of meant to be in dysfunctional relationships. I must be broken.
Mm.
So that's probably why I'm in dysfunctional relationships. Well, I guess I just better make do with what I have and stop complaining about it. Right. So it's kind of like this self-defeatist sort of mentality that you allow yourself to, you know, you allow yourself to fall back into that hole, and you allow others to put you there, and or other things to put you there. And once this becomes clear, it's like your perception shifts. It's like all of a sudden somebody walks up to you with a pair of glasses and says, here, put these on. You're going to see things very, very differently.
Mm.
And that's what reality transurfing is. Now, I'm not going to say it's instant. And I'm not going to say that, you know, once you read the book or watch my videos or take the course or whatever, that you're fixed, right? This is a practice, just like Buddhism is a practice. This is staying tuned into the concepts, staying tuned into the knowledge, and continuously viewing reality through this new filter, right?
Mm.
And this is why I'm essentially doing what I'm doing now. When I first found transurfing, I went on cloud nine. You know, I was so happy. Reality looked so good. And then I went back to my old mindset and I was like, hey, what happened? How did I end up back where I was? I thought I read this book and, you know, it seems like I'm back in my old reality. So then again, I listened to the audio. I went back to the transurfing way of seeing things, and that flip-flopped a few times. And I realized what was happening was that old program that I had been running on for 35 years, that was the predominant program. That was the strong program. So anytime I relaxed on my transurfing perspective, that old program would override it and take back over again. So
Mm.
then I realized I got to make this transurfing program the program. And I figured out a bunch of things that I could do to stay tuned into it, like, you know, be a part of a community, there wasn't a community at the time. So I decided to create one and do things transurfing, think transurfing, talk transurfing. And 5 years in, I'm happy to say this is my new program. I can't imagine what it would take for me to go back. And that old way of thinking, once in a while, I can gain a little bit of a sense of what it was like. It sends chills down my spine. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I never want to go back there again. But mostly, I can't even remember it. It is like,
Really?
I know, I cannot even remember it. I
Yeah.
cannot even remember it. It's amazing.
I bet it's kind of like, you know, when you're looking at, you know, your 35-year-old self versus your 15-year-old self, except for you were just looking at yourself from like a 5-year difference. You know,
Oh,
it's like the person that you are between your teens and your 30s is very drastically different. But if you're going from like 35 to 40, you would expect like, okay, like your mindset's not that different, but clearly it was a game changer for you.
oh yeah. Everything that I believed about myself and my life and reality as I was experiencing it, my environment, everything just kind of dissolved. It just
Mm.
dissolved. And then something much, much better grew and flourished in its place. And I mean, it's been to say it's the greatest thing that's ever happened to me would be like just such a massive understatement. I got a new reality. I got a new life. I got a new brain,
Yeah.
you know? Like I got a new brain, my anxiety, my depression, doubting myself. I suffered from horrible poverty mentality. My God, even when I was making money, and this is part of the reason why I became so broken before I found transurfing is when I left home and I moved to LA, I thought I just need to find a way to make money. I just need to be rich. I just need to, you know, I got to just make this happen. And then I can be happy, right? And I was hitting all these major benchmarks, and I had all the stuff that anybody could ever want. I mean, I had this amazing lifestyle, yet the more I made for myself, the unhappier I became. And I was like, why is this happening? I thought once I had money, I would be happy. And it finally got to the point where I'd had a pretty good year, and I just moved into this beautiful condo in Venice, California. I mean, it was like right on the beach. It was amazing.
Dang, yeah.
And I'm like, I've got all the furniture. It's restoration hardware throughout the entire place. I've got a brand new, 5 Series BMW. I've got tons of jewelry and money and all kinds of nice stuff. And I'm like, oh God, I feel so good. And then I'm like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You feel horrible. You feel horrible. You are empty and you feel horrible. And that is when absolute panic set in. Absolute panic of everything that I had believed, everything that I had worked for. Once I got there and I realized that that wasn't it, then I was like, oh my God, then what is it? Like,
Right.
I don't know. And I'm scared. And I worked myself up into a place where I became absolutely terrified. And that's when I left. And that's when I found transurfing. And thank God, because it was just, the timing was serendipitous beyond anything I could have ever asked for. So
I think that's something that we tell ourselves a lot. Like the stories that we tell ourselves is I'll be happy when. Like that is such a profound statement that we make. We don't even realize like how detrimental it can be. I'll be happy when I get married. I'll be happy when. And it's just, you don't even realize, then you just start living for that. And when you finally get it, and like you said, there's still that emptiness. Like you look around you and life looks pretty, but life on the inside feels miserable. Like that is a scary thing to face. Like right and smack you in the face. Like, okay, well, I thought this my entire life. This was a story I was telling myself for 30 years. And then now it's like, okay, I have to rewrite a new story.
Yes. I know. It's very challenging to, it's eye-opening, and it's upsetting when, when you experience that. Now, when I found transurfing, and transurfing showed me exactly why all that sort of stuff was happening, it made so much sense. And I was like, that was the relief. But we actually have a saying in the transurfing modality that happiness either exists here and now in this present moment, or it doesn't exist at all, and it never will.
Ooh.
Yeah.
So that's deep.
Yep. And it's all about that chasing that dangling carrot, right? And so many people are chasing a carrot right now. And it doesn't matter if you catch the carrot, you're still, when you look at it from a perspective of physics, your body, the way that your mind is working, it's moving in a specific direction. It's thinking in a specific direction. Once you catch that carrot, you don't just stop, right? Then you develop a new carrot.
Yeah.
Right? That's why wealthy people can never get enough money, right? That's why billionaires are statistically miserable, right? All of that kind of stuff. There's always something to fill in once you've sort of achieved that accomplishment. And I learned that the hard way.
Yeah. But now you're teaching people so that they don't have to learn it the hard way. They can kind of fast track it. And there is something that I have in my notes, and I would love for you to educate me on this.
Yes.
What is the wave of fortune?
Oh God, that's so good. Yeah. It just puts a huge smile on my face, because it's just when it's your reward for transurfing. So yeah. So when you dial in to the concepts and you're actively transurfing. So you've got a good connection with your world, right? We call it the alternative space. You've got a good connection with your world. You're managing your pendulum. These are pendulums. These are the entities outside of you, or even you have your own internal pendulums that bleed you of your energy. And when you manage these entities and you take more energy back for yourself, and then you apply that energy in a direction that suits you and your intentions, and you kind of keep on this mode for a while, you sort of shift yourself from your current state of reality to a higher state of reality. We call them life tracks. And when you shift yourself to these higher life tracks, there's an abundance of stuff that people like opportunities and money and adventure and, connecting with, better romantic interests or better friends, or just having better relationships in general, or sort of auspicious kind of things presenting themselves to you in your life, like somebody calling you out of the blue and saying that you won some money, or you here's an opportunity for you. And as you get into the groove of transurfing, these waves come more and more and more. You can't dictate when one of these waves is going to come in your direction, but you can do little specific things to kind of like initiate it. And when you initiate it and you start to take off and experience this phenomenon, then you can kind of amp up your transurfing game a little bit, and you can make the wave really pay out. It's almost like a slot machine in reality that's just like paying out. Like you just get a bunch of really fortunate kind of circumstances coming in your direction at once. Just very, and they could be small things, right? They don't have to be huge things. We're not talking like, winning the lottery or anything like that. I mean, I'm sure that's definitely a variation of reality that does happen to some people, but it's more about things that are specific to you, that you like and you want. All of a sudden your reality just starts kind of paying out, if you will.
Yeah, just like handing it to you on a silver platter, because, and I'm sure it could be little small self-fulfilling things too. Like that may be a big deal to me, but maybe not such a big thing to you.
Yeah.
That's I like that it's the reward of it too, because I think the rewards of, like the universe, like it all coming back to you is proof that you did your work.
Totally. Yeah. It is. Well, we actually have right now in the Facebook group that I've started, we have a challenge going on, and it's called Quantum Bootcamp. And there's 5 steps to Quantum Bootcamp, and like everyone that's taking it's experiencing the wave of success right now, and they're all posting their stories in there, and it's really amazing to see.
So cool.
Yeah, because you're seeing what fortune is to other people. And then you're like, it's an amazing energy. But yeah, it's fortune specific for you, success specific for you, opportunities, adventure, the stuff that you specifically want. Your reality starts paying this out to you on a silver platter, like you said.
I like that your group is doing this challenge now, and you can kind of see it, because to me, as soon as you said that, it was like, so fortune is also a word that we define for ourselves then. So just like perfect, right? It's your own perception as to like what fortune is. And I think that's something that I hadn't really consciously thought about either, of, what may feel like a really big win for me could be minute to someone else, or it could also be like a dang girl, someone else, like that envious moment of like, I want that too. So it's just, fortune is also something that you can define for yourself, and what that looks like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm a huge advocate And this is how transurfing geared a little more towards science than spirituality. This is how it's definitely worked for me. And this is what I try to instruct others to do. But that is to quantify what a good life means for you, to quantify what success means, to quantify what success you would feel like that you're successful, or quantify how much money you need to feel wealthy, or just quantifying everything, because a lot of what people do is they just see like, images on Instagram and watch Netflix movies and see things, and they think, oh, I want a house like that. Oh, I want a car like that. Oh, I want to be able to do that. And I want to do this and I want to do that. I don't have enough money. Maybe I'll never have enough money, but when you sit down and you ask yourself, what is enough money for me? What would help me to feel successful, like my levels of it, right? And that's part of why I broke in my previous life in Los Angeles, right? Is because I was just wanting more. And I became like this hungry kind of money eating monster, right? That's just like more. And there was never enough. But when I stepped back and I'm like, okay, what do you legit need to feel safety, security, and success? And I put that into an actual framework of goals. Yeah. This is how much money I want in the bank. I want to have no debt. I want to have a house with this much paid off. I want to own my car outright. I don't want to have any student loans or anything like that. And I want this amount of inventory for my other business. And this is what financial success looks like to me. Right. And when you can do something like that for yourself, and you can apply that to everything, you could apply that to, what does a healthy romantic relationship look like specifically for you, right? A lot of people don't, oddly enough, they don't do that. Yeah. Right? They like meet somebody and they're like, oh, okay, well, I guess you'll do. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, this isn't working. Well, here, let me fight with the person for 5 years before we get a divorce. And, instead of like you laying down all those guidelines, that structure before you even get started. Right. And it's this is how you build your reality. Mm-hmm. And now that's what my life's about. And it's good. It's going super, super good. And it just continues to get better. I mean,
I can feel that from your energy in itself, and how passionate you are about transurfing, and just how it's changed your life and how it's changing people from across the globe, it sounds like. And I know you have so much more to offer. I am definitely more interested in this, but I know our audience will be as well. Where can they go to connect with you further, grab the book, and just learn more about Reality Transurfing?
Yeah, so the book can be found on Amazon. The official book is Reality Transurfing Steps 1 through 5. You could follow me on Instagram, reality_transurfing. We have an amazing Facebook group. It is lit. There's a lot of people in there seeing everyday successes and big gains in their lives from following these concepts. So it's a really, really good place to connect with other transurfers. That's called the International Institute of Transurfing on Facebook. And you could go to my website, transurfing.us. We have a course on Teachable Reality 2.0, which has been really, really popular. People are absolutely loving it, especially for newbies. It is like, it breaks it all down really, really easy. You don't even have to read the book if you take the course, but we do suggest that, that you do both at the same time to really get the maximum effects. And then we have Transurfing TV on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I have almost 600 videos of me just breaking it all down in all different kinds of ways. And yeah, it's all practical application. We have, active conversations in the Facebook group about the videos. And it's just a really, really positive, amazing place for anything you want to develop about yourself, your life, your professional life, your relationships. Be more successful, whatever it is you're looking to do, you can connect with others that are doing it right now.
Oh, that is so awesome. And I love when there's just like so much content that you can just eat up and absorb. It's like my favorite. So I'll be sure to link all of this in this week's episode notes. So anyone who's listening, just head over there for direct links. And Renee, you are full of so much light and wisdom. Thank you for schooling me today and our audience. I enjoyed this and I love what you're doing in the world.
Thank you so much, Lauren. It was a pleasure to be here. I really, really appreciate you having me on, and I hope to see you in our community.
Okay, I know your mind might be a little blown, but your curiosity is definitely piqued. Mine definitely was and still is. These types of conversations help elevate our consciousness, which is my jam, and I am here for it. Renee shares an insane amount of free content on her social media platforms. I've linked all of these as well as her website on this week's episode notes found on mindbizlife.com. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and be sure to give the podcast a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you tune in and turn it up. I'll see you back here on Friday for another episode of Fuel Your Life Friday, but until then, remember, every level of life is an opportunity to grow. Be well, my friend.